was focused on 4 main objectives. We were interested in looking at the drivers of violent extremism, both the pull and push factors. Secondly, we were interested in looking at the enabling environment where the youth work and operate. We were interested in the interventions that have been put in place by state and non-state actors for preventing and countering violent extremism. And finally, we were looking at what has worked, what has not worked, and why. In these 4 objectives, we focused on Kenya and Uganda as the case studies in the IGAD region. This project embraced the mixed methods research methodology. We used the case-to-case design approach. We employed the community-based participatory appraisal research approach, which we borrowed from the agricultural sector. We tried this methodology in the social sciences because we thought that violent extremism is a problem that is facing the communities, but it has been overgeneralized and has been looked at the national level. The reports mainly are focused on nations more, and yet peace and security is a personal, an individual, and community challenge more than it is before it becomes a national challenge. So we did the human rights approach and focused on the individuals, the community, the nation, before we look at the global level. So the community-based participatory appraisal research methodology is an action research in which all the participants, all the stakeholders who are involved in the project their ideas are valued from the beginning of the project up to the end of it. So all the participants, may it be the policymakers, academia, civil society, media, and even our respondents, their ideas were valued from the beginning up to the end. For all of them, from the time we had an inception meeting where we asked for buy-in from all the stakeholders, we formed a community of practice where we shared any relevant information on this particular project. From there, we went to the field, and in the field, our implementing partner was PeaceNet Kenya, which had its branches in both Kenya and in Uganda. In Kenya, they had their presence in 16 counties. In Uganda, they had their presence in at least 5 areas where we conducted the research. From these our implementing partners made it possible for us to reach the grassroots, the civil society organizations, the youth-led organizations in those communities. So we had interactions with individuals, we had interactions with communities, the members of the communities, leaders in the communities, peace committees, and also the policymakers who are working on this project. This methodology was innovative because it was a first of its own nature to adopt a methodology from agriculture and bring it into social sciences. We piloted it and it worked very well for us. Gender was mainstreamed in our project from the beginning up to the end. We did this by ensuring that the research team that was working in this project were both male and female. At least in ratios of 50-50. Even the participants, we tried as much as we could to ensure that the respondents were also the same. We did the same for all those who participated in our capacity building workshops, and even the report that we wrote, we ensured that it is engendered. We found out that violent extremism should not be overgeneralized. The drivers of violent extremism should not be overgeneralized because, one, they are interrelated and they are intertwined like a spider web. Each one of them is linked to the other. So it is not, in our study, we found that we cannot categorize them according to economic factors or religious factors or ideological factors, or maybe only the social media. For us, we took a holistic approach to drivers of violent extremism. We also found out that violent extremism is context specific, because in each of the country, in each of these two countries, we identified 3 sites per country, and we found out that in as much as the drivers of violent extremism were similar, they differed in terms of intensity and impact at each of the various sites, because our study was comparative both across countries and within the countries. So the drivers of violent extremism differ and they are context specific. Context matters. We also found out that gender is a major factor, and we should not overgeneralize PCVE programming, because we found out that when we were doing our literature review, we had found out that most studies had portrayed women as the vulnerable, as the weak people who were only participating in violent extremism from the background. They were passive participants. But our study found out that just as men participate, or young people, both male and female, participate equally, they even women are the instigators in certain cases. They are the ones also who lead this radicalization and violent extremism in some of the cases. We also found out that in as much as the civil society organizations or the NGOs work in small areas, their geographical coverage is small compared to the governments, they have more impact than the government. The government interventions are various and many, but they are widespread with very little impact. We also found out from our research that it is important to take a whole government and all community approach to issues of violent extremism, so that they are not broken down. The community-based approach is the most effective, because at the community-based approach, which we piloted, we found out that it is most effective because it leads to Ubuntu. People care for one another, and once they care for one another, there's social cohesion. Once there's social cohesion, there is no discrimination, and therefore the frustrations that youth encounter as a result of this discrimination, intergenerational gaps and the like, are eliminated, because they work together at the community level, at the household level, and then it grows to the national level. We encountered a few challenges, which again the training that IDRC organized helped us. We had already foreseen that we may encounter these challenges, and we enlisted them in the risks and even how we shall mitigate the challenges. So one of them was maintaining the partnerships. Because we come from different orientations. You realize that, as I had said earlier, we had academia represented by Austria, we had policymakers represented by C1 IGAD, we had civil society organizations represented by PeaceNet. Now, each of us comes into we were all bringing value to the project, but also we have our different orientations and belief systems and philosophies on how we approach issues. So that sometimes posed a challenge, but we mitigated because we were trained by IDRC on consortium building and also forming cohorts. Another challenge that we faced was finance. We really wanted to do quite a lot more than what we did, especially when it came to trainings and holding the community summits. But finance, the grant that we received was not enough to enable us to do that. Project manager at IDRC was very instrumental, Dr. Martha Mutisi, in advising us on way forward. So we were learning from one another as members of the cohort, and also from her advising us on way forward. Then secondly, the flexibility of the project. We were able to manage and move forward because initially we started with an inception meeting. In this inception meeting, we met all our stakeholders. We were using a relational model of research uptake, and so we build relationships from the beginning up to the end. That helped us a lot. Even when we were having a challenge, we would still go back to those communities because we had established strong relationships with one another.